All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella here on this Thursday, October 9th, 2025. It's our under construction edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. I just got word this morning that they're going to begin work on the roof right above us here at the All Access Football Studio. So we're going to do the best we can to try and get through the show, and a lot to get to. I got the notebook filled with notes, talking NFL, Thursday night football, Friday night lights. We got an NFL draft watch, and hopefully if we make it to 10:40 a.m. Eastern, we have James Larsen on deck from Pro Football News, one of the best. In fact, he is the best United Football League insider, and we talked about some changes of the UFL, some realignment, relocation, different venues. We'll get into that with James Larsen, hopefully coming up at 10:40 a.m. Eastern. And this is our 39th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. It is your home for real football talk. So let's buckle up, hunker down, and see how far we can get along here today. And appreciate any comments. We're going to ask for some feedback here today. If you guys don't mind dropping us a line and letting us know if the construction is tolerable or not. So let's try to get to it. I'm going to start off with the Thursday night football preview here between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. Of course, the Eagles 4-1 coming off their first loss of the season, and the New York Giants 1-4 on a short week hosting this NFC East affair. And the Eagles come in at 7.5-point favorites here, over under set at 40.5. Now we are 44-35 year to date now through 6 weeks or 5 weeks of NFL action, 44-35 against the spread. All of our picks are made with the point spread. So let's get to this one. Philadelphia leads the all-time series, 92 wins to 86 losses and 2 ties all time. But the Eagles winning 6 of the last 7 games here. All right, tight end Grant Calcaterra, oblique. He's going to be out, as is offensive guard Landon Dickerson with an ankle injury. He's also going to be out, so the Giants defensive line should look to take advantage of the Eagles offensive line, which has not been up to par by their standards in comparison to years past. Now, for the Giants, we talked about it yesterday. Darius Slayton with the hamstring is also going to miss this game. Malik Neighbors with the ACL out for the year. So the Giants are down to Wendell Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, undrafted free agent Bo Collins, and Gunnar Oslowski, who's really just primarily a return man. And we've talked about the Giants just having 51-man rosters when the NFL allows 53-man rosters. And we'll see what they do with the roster maneuvering here on the short week. Now, little bit of Saquon Barkley news here against his former team. All right, with 17 rushing yards, Saquon will become just the 6th player in NFL history to rush for 7,500 and catch 2,500 yards through his first 100 games. I think this is his 95th career game. The other 6 that have done that: Steven Jackson, Edgerrin James, a Hall of Famer, LaShawn McCoy, who's up for the Hall of Fame, Thurman Thomas, a Hall of Famer, and LaDainian Tomlinson, a Hall of Famer. So Saquon Barkley continues to put himself in elite company. Obviously, big storyline in Philadelphia is going to be the wide receiver drama. A.J. Brown kind of calling out the Eagles and Jalen Hurts last week, saying we didn't execute, we didn't get it there. I wasn't expecting the ball on, specifically that long, deep ball that Jalen Hurts missed him on. But Hurts has been missing Brown frequently, and Brown's been open. So has Devonta Smith. Eagles passing attack really hasn't been what we expect. But you do see Hurts, like last week, he took some downfield shots. We'll see if he continues to do that in this one. Jahad Campbell, how about him out of Alabama, the rookie linebacker there, stepping up in a big way. 11 tackles last week. And one other thing we're going to continue to monitor here is just the situation with the Giants, and could they look to maybe pawn off some pieces? Kayvon Thibodeau, we talked about potential trade bait yesterday. Well, Kayvon Thibodeau keeps popping up in trade rumors. There's been talk about, hey, could you flip him to Tennessee for Calvin Ridley? Could you maybe deal him off to the Bears or Cowboys, who need a pass rusher badly. But according to sources, the San Francisco 49ers have been hot to trot on Kayvon Thibodeau and have potentially an offer on the table. So we'll see if the Giants pull the trigger on that. They have not yet exercised his fifth option from his rookie deal, I believe. So that's just an underlining story in this matchup, this NFC East affair. I mentioned the Eagles come in here as 7.5-point favorites. You know, we had Howard Balzer on yesterday, and we talk about how close the NFL games are, especially on these primetime affairs. I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the Giants. I've been off the mark trying to predict them, but I don't think they're in the same class as Philadelphia. Jackson Dart, down some weapons here, is really going to be asked to do a lot. And of course, Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart both putting the ball on the carpet last week. Dart with 2 big interceptions. You can't have that against the Eagles. I expect the Giants to make more mistakes, and I look for Philadelphia to capitalize on those mistakes. So I have Philadelphia covering the 7.5, 24-13, but it comes with a warning because these Thursday night games, expect the unexpected. We've expected some lopsided games in the past this season, and they've been close, although I think Eagles are going to be on a mission to destroy. So give me Philadelphia 24-13 to cover. All right. How we doing on the noise? This is our under construction edition. They're working on the roof above me here. We're trying to get through the show and bring you an hour of power of football talk because there's a lot to get to. Another day, another trade in the NFL. And, you know, the Browns have been making moves. Obviously, they dealt Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But the Browns making more deals, sending Greg Newsome, the cornerback, to Jacksonville, and a 2026 sixth-round pick in exchange for Tyson Campbell and a 2026 seventh-round pick. So sounds like the audio is good, according to Angelique. We appreciate the ears on the ground access there. So, all right, very good. We'll keep it moving and grooving. So the Browns make another trade, swap cornerback, swap some draft picks there. And, of course, they dealt Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. And suddenly now Flacco is slated to start here on Sunday against Green Bay. And we talked about it yesterday. Cincinnati wanted a quarterback who could step in, pick up the offense quickly. Joe Flacco, 42 years old. He's been around the block, 20 years of experience in the NFL. He's seen just about every offensive system, so he'll give it a go, try to revitalize or resuscitate the Cincinnati Bengals season as they get set to take on the Green Bay Packers this Sunday. Now, the other interesting development there in the mistake by the Lake is Shedeur Sanders. And, you know, we mentioned he did his car dealership interview. I assume that was sponsored. I've never seen a third string quarterback do so many interviews, and maybe he needs to study more and prepare more, or maybe Kevin O'Connell or Kevin Stefanski just doesn't like Shedeur Sanders because now, I mean, the press conference was awkward there with Stefanski because they asked if Shedeur Sanders would back up Joe Flacco this week, and he went into a whole rant about, you know, he does what's best for his players and tries to prepare them and put them in situations to succeed. And he danced around a lot. And in so many ways, he was insinuating Shedeur Sanders is not yet ready. However, there could be a schism between the front office and head coach, you know, Andrew Berry, the general manager there, pulled the trigger on this Joe Flacco trade. And it sounds like it caught Stefanski a little bit off guard. And so Andrew Berry just dealt Joe Flacco. Stefanski had to adjust, but also there's a lot of talk that Stefanski did not want anything to do with Shedeur Sanders. And so I wonder now, are egos getting in the way? Because, you know, Bailey Zapp, we know what he's about. He's bounced around the league. He's a game manager who throws picks, and you kind of know what Bailey Zappi is. Wouldn't the Browns want to find out what they got in Shedeur Sanders? But Stefanski pumping the brakes there. So I wonder the communication there between Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, and is there a grudge against Shedeur Sanders? Because it just seems a little bit awkward to have Bailey Zapp, a guy just signed to the practice squad, elevated ahead of Shedeur Sanders to be the backup this Sunday. But here we are. All right. Staying in the AFC North, Lamar Jackson did not practice due to a hamstring. Once again, it looks like he's going to miss the second straight week. Head coach John Harbaugh was very vague, but the second consecutive week of practice that Lamar Jackson has missed, which means Cooper Rush would be in line to start once again for Baltimore this week. So a little bit of more unfortunate news for the Ravens as they are on the ropes. And currently, we did our mock draft over on the website yesterday at allaccessfootball.com. It's hard to imagine the Ravens right now currently are slotted with the third overall pick. But I gave him Reuben Bain out of Miami, who I think is the best overall prospect right now on our big board. And wow, wouldn't that be, I guess, a consolation prize there for the Ravens if it does go off the tracks for the rest of the way? All right, other quarterback news to get to. San Francisco, Brock Purdy has a toe. He's progressing, but he did not practice yesterday. And that means Mac Jones could be in line for another start. Now, Mac Jones is under contract for $4 million next year. So I think he's going to be a hot trade commodity. And you will have to trade for Mac Jones, give up probably draft equity, and then he'll be looking for an extension. And I would think, based on the way he's playing, that the price tag would start at a minimum of at least $20 million a year. You look at Justin Fields over there with the Jets is making $20 million a year. So I think the starting negotiations would be at $20-25 million a year if you want to trade for Mac Jones this offseason and make him your franchise quarterback. We mentioned it's not really a great quarterback class here that's shaping up. So we'll keep an eye on the San Francisco quarterback situation. Now, they also have George Kittle with a hamstring injury, who's eligible to come off the IR, also progressing and has a chance to play. No certainties, but has a chance to play. And we've talked about Jake Tongas, who's really emerged, the tight end out of California, making all kinds of touchdown grabs this season in the absence of Kittle. And then one other San Francisco injury update. Ben Bartch, the left guard, is expected to miss extended time. We don't know the severity or how long, but it is going to be several weeks for their left guard, Ben Bartch there. One other quarterback note, we had Howard Balzer on from Cards Wire USA Today yesterday. We also did a great Hall of Fame debate, but he also brings us inside the Cardinals for the USA Today. Kyler Murray did not practice once again yesterday with a foot injury. He's considered day-to-day. And if Murray can't go, then Jacoby Brissett would be in line to start. And I'll tell you, man, the poor quarterback play, or the backup quarterbacks, there's not a lot of good ones, right? And so now Arizona could be looking at a game time decision for Kyler Murray this upcoming week. All right, some other NFL news and notes to get to, and then we'll take a look at the college football side of things. And also we've got Thursday night football. We just did the Monday night, the NFL Thursday night game, and we also have 4 college football matchups on the slate for you tonight. Hopefully you're not hearing all the noise that I am. I'm trying to do my best here to get through it. All right, NFL news and notes. Terry McLaurin is still out with a quad injury. He did not practice yesterday. However, Noah Brown, who missed the last couple of weeks, did practice. He's got a knee and a groin injury. It looks like Noah Brown will be on track to return to the lineup and help out Jaden Daniels there. Over in Carolina, Chuba Hubbard looks like he could potentially miss another week here due to his calf injury. And Rico Dowdle, how about that? He had 206 rushing yards last week, filling in for Chuba Hubbard. So Rico Dowdle in line potentially to start once again for the Carolina Panthers. And then we have a Jermaine Pratt sighting resurfacing. The former Cincinnati Bengal, who had 143 tackles last year, signed with the Las Vegas Raiders during the offseason, 1 year, $4.25 million. But that experiment pulled the plug very quickly. Pete Carroll wanted to go in a different direction. We talked about Pratt not being able to take to coaching, clashing heads with a lot of teammates and coaches there in the Raiders. Well, he resurfaces in Indianapolis with the Colts, where his former Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, is currently the defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. So maybe Coach Anarumo can get Jermaine Pratt back on track. And if he does, well, guess what? That's an added bonus for that Colts defense, who's playing lights out, led by Cam Bynum. He's playing at an all-pro level. Zaire Franklin, obviously, Brenston Buckner up front. A lot of good players on that Colts defense stepping up in a big way. And we already know about the offense. So the Indianapolis Colts may be getting a little bit stronger. Bucky Irving still on the mend for Tampa Bay. We saw Rachaad White step in last week. And it's good to see they signed Owen Wright yesterday. Owen Wright, a product of Monmouth University, right up the road here in New Jersey. And he's been spending the last couple years on the Baltimore Ravens, bouncing back between the practice squad and active roster. And one thing that stood out to me about Owen Wright coming out for the draft is he plays all 4 special teams units. And he's a thumper, big bruiser, hard to bring down, yards after contact. So maybe Owen Wright gets some playing time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We shall see. And then the Dallas Cowboys, they are a banged up squad. We talked about it last week, down 5 starters. And I picked the Jets like a fool. And I told you I'll never pick the Jets again for the rest of the season if they can't beat Dallas, down 5 marquee starters. But again, yesterday, Cowboys practice report, 5 players did not practice. Another 10 players were limited in practice. So the Cowboys are hurting, but they're staying competitive. And I'll say this, the Dallas Cowboys are better than what I expected them to be coming into this season. So one other news and notes from the NFL universe. We talked about it. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. And Xavier Howard retired last week. And a lot of that was contributed to the social media lashback, possibly. Well, we said if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, how about Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones deactivates all of his social media accounts? And I guess fans have been badgering him about his lack of effort and his lack of hustle. And then the comments following that Monday Night Football affair where they dropped to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence dropped to the ground, and I guess Chris Jones gave up on the play. A lot of fans calling him out for that. So Chris Jones just chose to check out and deactivate. All right, we're not going to deactivate despite the under construction mayhem that we're experiencing here at the All Access Football Studios, because coming up in about 20 minutes, we got James Larsen is going to give us the latest on the United Football League. He's actually going to be en route to the Columbus press conference, I believe, the Columbus Aviators. And James is ever so kind. He said, "No, don't worry, Rick. I'll pull over and do the interview for you." So we're happy to have James Larsen coming up at 10:40. And when we come back, we're going to turn the page over to the NCAA landscape. And I'll tell you, man, this Bill Belichick situation, it keeps getting worse and worse by the day. We're going to talk about that right after the break. And a lot of mixed signals coming out of Chapel Bill. We'll talk about it. So don't go anywhere. Smash that like button, and we'll be back right after this. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, we're back at it again here on the All Access Football Daily Show. It's the under construction edition here. We appreciate your patience as we're getting a new roof on the All Access Football Studios. I just got word this morning they were going to start construction, so I had very little time to prepare for this, and hopefully it's not too bad. Early reports and indications it's okay, so we're going to continue to move and groove here on the All Access Football Daily Show on this Thursday, October 9th, 2025. It is our 39th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. You're home for real football talk, and coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to have James Larsen from Pro Football News breaking it down on the United Football League. We're looking forward to that, but first we've got some college football news and notes to get to here. And as the world turns, I mean, this Chapel Hill, North Carolina situation has turned into a real soap opera. And we didn't know what to expect coming in. Obviously, we did the training camp visit down there in August, got a first up-close look of Billy Belichick in person, and 70 players coming in. I was told over 100 new players were on the roster. I guess 70 that came over from the transfer portal. But, you know, the bombshell report that started earlier in the week with, you know, the toxic environment, some transfer portals, most notably the ones coming over from Washington with Steve Belichick getting preferential treatment, no communication between the coaching staff and the parents, which was existent there with the Mac Brown era. And now you got the cornerback coach with illegal selling, you know, giving extra tickets to players so they can sell them on the side, and cornerback coach getting in trouble. But reports are the board of trustees there in North Carolina have reportedly made an unauthorized offer, which means what? They've kind of gone behind the back of the school and ponied up some money to buy out Bill Belichick. And there were some talks yesterday that discussions were underway. Maybe it was in reference to this board of trustees unauthorized offer, but they want Belichick out of there, it sounds like. However, Bill Belichick did put out a statement yesterday saying, "I'm fully committed to UNC football and the program we're building here." Athletic director Bob Cunningham came out and said Belichick has the full support of the university. But you just wonder what's really transpiring behind the scenes. There was even a report that maybe Belichick could be angling to get out of his contract, which would owe him $20 million more, but it exercise a right where he gives back. It's a $1 million buyout. So North Carolina, I believe, not certain, but I believe would owe Belichick $19 million if he chooses to walk away. But there was a report that Belichick could be angling for the Miami Dolphins job. Boy, wouldn't that be fascinating? There's so many layers to this onion. We're trying to peel back the banana, but we shall see what transpires. And of course, we mentioned Rex Ryan, also rumored to be the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins, possibly in season here, as Stephen Ross is looking for more of a disciplinarian. Could it be Rex Ryan? Could it be Bill Belichick? I don't know, but I don't think this Bill Belichick experiment is going to last very longer down there in Chapel Hill. So that is your daily soap opera update with the North Carolina Tar Heels. Okay, other NCAA news and notes. We mentioned yesterday the NCAA signed off on a one-window portal. January 2nd through the 16th will be the new portal window. It'll just be one portal window as opposed to previous years where you had the winter portal in December and then you had another spring portal, and it was just becoming a full-time job to keep up with the portal. In fact, I think almost 8,000 players entered the transfer portal last year, according to ESPN. I don't know how you keep up with that. Now, yesterday, the NCAA approved a bill that's going to allow Division I athletes to bet on pro sports. I mean, the college football landscape has been turned upside down, and it continues to get crazier and crazier. Now, the logic here apparently is because there's been a splurge of investigations into 14, to be exact, 14 investigations at 6 different schools involving players who have wagered on sports. The details in terms of whether they wagered on their own teams or not are murky, but instead of the NCAA getting more stricter and putting more restrictions and rules into gambling, they're going to just say, hey, it's okay, just as long as you don't bet on college football. So college football players and staff and coaches will be allowed to wager on all other sports, not including college. Quite the turn of perception there by the NCAA. It's kind of hard to believe, really, that we're just allowing this and saying, hey, it's okay. We're just going to make it okay across the board. Just don't bet on your own school. Okay. NCAA, giddy up. All right. Deion Sanders back at practice one day after his blood clot procedure. Pretty fascinating stuff there. He had some surgery to clean out arteries and 16-hour surgery, and it was all documented because that's what Deion does with his well-off media. They chronicled the whole event, I guess, if you want to call it that. It included a visit from Pac-Man Jones in the hospital, calls with Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh Sanders. Shiloh making light of the moment. Hey, give me $5, I'll make sure you're alive. Talking about, hey, just give me $5 million, I'll make sure you're alive, Dad. And that's the latest from Boulder, Colorado. But some interesting news and notes in the NCAA landscape. All right, we've got Thursday Night Lights. Okay, we did our Thursday night football prediction in the last segment. NFL news and notes. Just got to some NCAA news and notes, and we've got James Larsen coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So let me get you the NFL draft watch for the Thursday night college football action. Over in Conference USA at 7 p.m. on ESPNU, you got Louisiana Tech 4-1 at Kennesaw State 3-2. The name I'm going to give you here is Louisiana Tech linebacker Colby Fields. He comes in at 6 foot 226. He's a transfer from LSU, a New Orleans native, and he's playing at a very high level there for Louisiana Tech this season through 5 games. 39 tackles, including 3 tackles for a loss, a pair of sacks, a pair of interceptions. He's clearly making plays all over the field, and he is on the NFL draft radar. Okay, coming up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and a couple games here you can catch before the Eagles and Giants. Over in the American Conference, you've got ECU 3-2 at Tulane 4-1, 2 winning programs, and we've mentioned East Carolina wide receiver Anthony Smith in the past. Nice boundary wideout with length and speed, can stretch the defense. But I'm going to give you Tulane linebacker Sam Howard. And through 5 games played, he's got 25 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. Sam Howard coming in at 6 foot and 4/8 inches, 224 pounds. Just another name that you need to know. There's 2 names that we just gave you for the ECU at Tulane matchup. All right, over in Conference USA again, 8 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. You've got the Jacksonville State 2-3 at Sam Houston State 0-5, and Casey Keeler did depart Sam Houston State for Temple, and Sam Houston State has since gone in the gutter. But one guy we're going to give you in this matchup is going to be quarterback Gavin Wimsatt. And if you're here in New Jersey, you might recognize the name. He started off at Rutgers, spent 1 season at Kentucky before transferring over to Jacksonville State. He does bring experience. He's got 3,400 career passing yards, over 1,000 career rushing yards, has accounted for 36 touchdowns in his career. Now, at 6'1" and 5/8 inches, 230 pounds, he's a huskier, kind of bigger, stockier quarterback. He does more damage with his legs than he does his arm. And on the season, he's got a 55.8 completion percentage with 576 passing yards, a pair of touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns on the ground, 238 rushing on the season for Gavin Wimsatt. I don't really view him as an NFL prospect, but I do think he could have a home in the Canadian Football League, especially as a short yardage runner specialty role there north of the border. All right, one more game before we get to James Larsen, who's coming up in 5 minutes or so. Just got a text. He's good to go. Georgia Southern cornerback Chance Gamble is the name you need to know for the Sun Belt affair. That's going to be at 8 p.m. ESPN2. You got Southern Miss 3-2 at Georgia Southern 2-3, and Chance Gamble is a lengthy cornerback, 6'1" and 3/8 inches at about 180 pounds. A little bit light, but 3 games played this season, 11 tackles, an interception, and 1 pass deflection. He did have 3 interceptions and 7 pass deflections a year ago for Georgia Southern, so he is somebody just to keep an eye on if you're going to tune in to the Thursday night football affair that's going down tonight. You got 2 games in Conference USA, a game in the American, and a game in the Sun Belt. All kicking off between 7 and 8 p.m. So you can get a sneak peek preview of all these games right before the start of the Eagles and Giants. Okay, if you're just tuned in, this is our under construction episode here at the All Access Football Daily Show. We got a new roof going on as we speak, and hopefully it's not too bad, because our next guest, James Larsen, over from Pro Football Newsroom, is going to hop on, talk about the United Football League, all the new changes, team relocations. They have moved into more soccer style venues, try to improve their bottom line. They have also switched divisions, format, playoff structure. We'll get into all that and more with James Larsen right after the commercial break. So don't go anywhere. We got a special guest for you right after the break. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella here on this Thursday, October 9th, 2025. It is our 39th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show, your home for real football talk. And we cover everything here at the All Access Football Daily Show, whether it be the NFL, the CFL, the United Football League, which we're going to get into with our next guest, and a lot of moving and shaking in the United Football League. Market relocation, new venues, new divisional format. We're going to get the latest and the lowdown with our next guest, who I'm excited to bring on board, making his All Access Football debut. He is truly, ladies and gentlemen, a trailblazer when it comes to the alternate football landscape. I mean, when I tell you nobody covers not just the United Football League, but he covered the United States Football League, formerly the USFL, the XFL. Of course, how could we forget the Spring League, the fan-controlled football league, which I was proud to be part of, short-lived, as well as the European League of Football. He also covers the NFL, but today we're going to talk about the United Football League with our good friend James Larsen, joining the show on his way to the Columbus Aviators press conference. How are we doing today, James? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing well, Rick. Appreciate you having me on. And yeah, it's the life of a trailblazer, the life of a hustler. I'm actually joining from McDonald's outside Columbus right now to make sure we can make this show work.
Because you're dedicated. You're a hustler, baby, and we love that. And we appreciate the time making a pit stop here. We're under construction at the All Access Football Studios. Hopefully it doesn't.
Well, hey, I apologize if it sounds like there's construction behind me. It's a McDonald's, so we're
outstanding, man. Well, let me just get your overall thoughts, because we see the United Football League. They announced 3 teams relocating. They've also announced a lot of new venues, of course, a new playoff format. What's your kind of overall grand scheme takeaways here of all the changes?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that what the UFL has been doing the last couple of years, they do a lot of good, but like the overall business model, it wasn't necessarily sustainable. And I think that's what we're seeing with Mike Rapoli coming in as the new owner of this league and really being like, look, guys, like we have to be in smaller stadiums. we need to get back to putting the fan first. I mean, that's something that spring football is supposed to be all about. I mean, you remember the XFL with Vince McMahon back in 2020 so well. I mean, it was all about the fans. It was all about that transparency, and that has kind of been lost the last few years with the UFL. And I understand there's been complications, and you had the merger, and there's a lot to work through. But having Rapoli's vision coming in, establishing smaller venues, really wanted to get into these local markets and connect with the fans and market to them and let these cities know that, hey, a UFL team is here and they're ready to play. We're going to sell out 15,000, 20,000 size stadiums. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to the future of this league.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mike Rapoli. I want to ask you because he's the newest investor here. Obviously, he's got his money behind it and he's backing it up as good as he can. Noticeably absent has been The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and I don't know if he's scheduled to be at the press conference today, but it seems like Rapoli has become more the spokesperson. And what's going on with The Rock? Like, he hasn't really been at the forefront or done much of the marketing. What do we make of that?
You know, I've kind of called this from the get-go when the leagues merged is once it wasn't his XFL anymore, and once it was the UFL and they merged and there was other people involved, he just cared a lot less. And that's been evident. I mean, he's only been to one UFL game over the last 2 years. That was the opener back in 2024 down in Arlington at Choctaw Stadium. He has not appeared at either championship game. He has never once showed up to St. Louis, which is bizarre given that that's the biggest market that the league has. So his involvement has been very little. I know that his investments in the league are a lot less than what they were in previous years, which makes sense, you know, with Mike Rapoli and others in office now. So, to my knowledge, The Rock, I mean, he's still involved, but it's not nearly as much as it was when it was Player 54 in the XFL.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to see him be more involved, but I guess that's the nature of the business. And, you know, the United Football League trying to be sustainable, trying to be profitable, right? And, you know, we've seen the now 3 teams are going to relocate to Columbus, where you'll be today, Louisville, and Orlando. And I'm old enough, James, to remember the 2000, 2001 XFL, and they did a great job marketing, and they put a lot of fans in the seats. And I know Rapoli says, hey, we have visions of 20,000 seat fans and stadiums. And, you know, talk is one thing, but now it's time for action. So I guess the biggest question to me, Columbus seems like a good market. Louisville, I'm kind of divided on, but haven't they tried Orlando recently several times?
Yeah, Orlando was recently in the XFL in 2023, and that was with the Guardians. They averaged just under 9,000 fans per game, but a couple things to take into account there. One, it's very hot down there in Orlando when you're playing outdoors, and the team was 1-9. So when you're at a big Camping World Stadium that seats 70,000, it just wasn't a great look on TV. It's going to be different this time around. They're playing at Inter & Co. Stadium, which seats around 25,000, give or take. And it's also notable that this stadium, soccer-sized stadium, and it has some overhangs, which does provide shade, which will be very crucial in my opinion. So I think the branding is better of the Storm. It's better than the Guardians. We'll see if Orlando works. I'm more excited about Louisville and Columbus specifically. I think Columbus is a phenomenal untapped market. I mean, Ohio is so big about football, and the Aviators, you know, playing right there where Ohio State fans, Cleveland Browns fans, Cincinnati Bengals fans can all kind of travel out in a relatively close, you know, spot. I mean, Columbus is pretty central in the state. I think it's a perfect fit, and I'm excited for Louisville. If you look at the sports landscape in that city, it is wide open this spring. There's AAA baseball, and there's a couple soccer teams, and that's it. I mean, there's no professional sports besides the soccer teams. And let's be honest, if you're a soccer fan, odds are you're not a big American football fan. So I think there's an untapped market there of sports fans, and I'm excited to see how the Kings perform.
All right, we're talking to James Larsen, Pro Football Newsroom, on the All Access Football Daily Show with Ric Serritella, covering the United Football League. Nobody does it better than James. And, you know, the other thing I wanted to ask you, James, well, let me ask you about the venues, because I see them shifting to more soccer venues. Will there be any football venues anymore, or is it just entirely soccer venues at this point?
So I think we'll see a mix of both. I mean, obviously the goal is to get into these soccer-sized stadiums, and now 5 of them are in Louisville and Columbus and in Orlando, and now Dallas and Houston moved too, because the other piece of the puzzle is the Dallas Renegades were back as Dallas. They were previously Arlington, and they had the hub system there at Choctaw Stadium in Arlington. That'll still be a practice facility, but they'll be playing their games at Toyota Stadium. Much better fit. I don't know if you caught any games watching on TV of Choctaw Stadium. I'm sure you did at some point. Optically, it looks so strange. So I think,
I was there in person, James.
yeah,
I
yeah.
experienced it in person. It was not a pleasant experience.
It's just such an odd. So I'm very glad that they're out of there. I think it's good for the league, and I understand why they were there in the first place because it was a good deal. But with Rapoli really pushing for these stadiums, the three that are left. Well, actually, there's 6 soccer stadiums because Audi Field in DC. So we've got 2 stadiums left that aren't Protective Stadium in Birmingham, and I know there are talks about. If the Stallions stay down there, they could move to the Hoover Met, which is a much smaller venue that fit around 15, 20K. St. Louis, I mean, hopefully they can get back to the numbers that we've seen in previous years, because if so, you can stick at the Dome, if they can get 35, 40,000 there, because we've seen that in St. Louis. Like, that's nothing new for the Battlehawks. So those 2 spots make sense, but yeah, we are 75% of the stadiums are now soccer stadiums.
Which makes sense. And, something I kind of stressed to them when they were first starting, but, it takes some trial and error, I suppose, to make it all work. I went to Choctaw. It was the most bizarre football experience. The whole stadium was open. There was people upper deck. There was people lower deck. There was no ambiance. So I do like the smaller venues. But it's my understanding, and I wanted to confirm this with you, that they are going to still have the hub format there in Arlington where all the teams practice. And I guess my question to you is, how do you establish a connection with the local markets and grassroots marketing if you're constantly in Arlington and then just flying out for the games? Aren't they putting themselves in the same hole that they previously were in?
I mean, that's a really good question, and it's one that we've talked about for quite some time. I mean, I've voiced my concerns about the lack of marketing. I think there's a couple of things. I believe that you can make it work with the Arlington hub system. It's just the problem is you still need actual employees in these cities who are there getting out and marketing. You got to fly players in sometimes for appearances. You got to fly coaches in sometimes. And I think what Rapoli made a comment this week during the press conferences that is encouraging is, most of the time in the UFL the last couple of years, the teams fly out like the day of the game or the right before the game. They leave right afterwards. Like, they're hardly actually in the city. This time around, Rapoli plans on, at least for some of the weeks, having teams in there 2 to 3 days before the game starts. So you're at least having that local involvement. You can get players on TV networks. You can host fan meet and greets and, maybe exclusive season ticket holder events and those sorts of things, where another piece of the puzzle is going to be, how do you sell season tickets now? Because the value for those season ticket holders have really decreased, because there's a lot like, kind of like we talked about, right? They've not really been connecting with the fan. They haven't been engaging with the fan as we've seen in years past. And because it's been so hard to sell tickets, last second, they do buy one, get one free, or they're doing big deals. And the season ticket holders are sitting there. They're like, why would I buy a season ticket to pay a premium price when I can show up on game day and get it for 50% off? So there's a reason why we've seen a steep decline in the season ticket sales, which is a big part of the infrastructure of this league that has to be corrected moving forward. And I'm confident that Rapoli will do what he can to do just that.
All right, great stuff out of James Larsen, Pro Football Newsroom. I know you're on the fly here. A couple quick questions I want to get in with you, James. And I saw something about kind of player allocation in terms of teams regarding their specific markets. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to know other than what Rapoli has gone out and said on air, and really, kind of similar. You remember the Alliance of American Football. I mean, any football sapient knows what the AAF was, and they had kind of a unique player allocation process where players from the local colleges that they'd be placed in that market. Someone played at the University of Arizona, well, they're going to play for the Arizona Hotshots, right? It was kind of that sort of mindset, and that's something that the UFL has not had, that Rapoli would like to bring in. That way, in Birmingham, you can come up and you're seeing players that played at Auburn or Alabama State or Alabama, things like that. And in Columbus, he's talked about, if the player played at Ohio State and he wants to go play for the Columbus Aviators, we need to make sure he's on the Aviators. So there's really not many details yet onto how that process, how that system's going to work, but it's in the works, and I'm sure we'll have more details on that soon.
Well, I think it helps towards building the connection with the local fan base markets. I think that's a positive development. Also, I know you've been all over the kind of free agent off season. This is the first year the United Football League actually had a form of free agency. For the listening audience at home, can you kind of give us details on how it works and the whole free agent process?
Yeah, it's a really unique period right now for the UFL, where players who have been on a team for the last 2 years are free to go sign with any team that they'd like. Of course, that's barring that they haven't already re-signed with the current franchise that they're with. We've already seen Matt Corral will make the jump. He's been with the Birmingham Stallions the last couple of years, former Ole Miss quarterback, NFL draft pick, one of the top arms in this league. And he's just been in weird spots with the Stallions where he's either just barely been beat out by either Adrian Martinez or Alex McGough. And then this year, he finally gets an opportunity to be the starter. And then he goes on injured reserve and he's out for basically the whole season. So for him, he jumps over to the Michigan Panthers, who will be put in one of the new markets. So we'll see where Corral actually ends up. Could be Orlando, Louisville, or Columbus. But I'm excited. I mean, we're going to see more of this coming through. I think right now it's a little bit slow because, again, we don't know where the Panthers going to go, where the Showboat's going to go, where the Brahma's going to go. Like, it's kind of unclear where these teams are going to be and who a couple of the head coaches are going to be. So once that kind of settles itself out, now that we know the markets, those things will come soon, and I think we'll see even more news on that front.
All right. One other thing I wanted to ask you about is the upcoming United Football League rookie draft, and they have not put out anything publicly. I know you've been kind of all over it unofficially, and is it going to happen this month? Or I know it's been pushed back a little.
Supposedly, but I think a lot of it is going to kind of balance on whether or not they get coaches into place, because at this point they've waited this long that, if they can get coaches in these teams the next couple of weeks, they can actually figure out where each team is going, then they'll have it this month. If not, it could get pushed back to November. But I'm really excited for the rookies draft this year. I think it was a really good move by the league to push it back, because in years past it's been in July, which at that point, you're trying to predict which guys who are already on NFL teams, and whether in rookie minicamp or they've signed for the preseason, you're trying to predict like who's going to get cut in a year or two that maybe we could have rights to. Now you're looking at a pool of players that has already been cut from NFL teams, or guys that were in rookie minicamps that weren't signed. Like these are your prime prospects right now to join the UFL, to come into this league. Some of them are going to be stars. Other guys, might need some development before they get to that level. But I'm excited for this draft, and I think we'll see a lot more draft selections signed to the UFL in 2026.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun because it's from the 2026 draft class eligible players that are basically not on an NFL team. So UFL will have a chance to draft some of these rookies. And I hope they have some kind of coverage, James, other than just Twitter posts. Maybe you can find that out today at your press conference.
We might be able to find that out. I mean, if not, I know, us at Around the UFL and Pro Football Newsroom will do live streams every once in a while. So if the league doesn't do one, might just have to. Maybe we'll get you on, Rick.
Count me in. I'm on board for that because I love it. And it's funny because we've got all the scouting reports ready to go. They're just lacking the live stream presence. And I've been told in the past that there's not a market for that, but how do you know?
There is, because it's 2025, right? I mean, these are the things that the UFL needs to start taking advantage of. Where you're doing a live stream right now on a very low budget through StreamYard. I'm currently in McDonald's on a live stream. Like this stuff is not that hard to do. Like you don't need to put it on TV. You can put it on YouTube. I guarantee you that if the league did a simple live stream, put it on YouTube, at least 5,000 viewers, at least.
No doubt. I hope we see that. One last thing is I think it's March 27th is the kickoff. There were some rumors they might push it back to the old XFL format starting a week after the Super Bowl. We had Howard Balzer on yesterday saying that weather may have played into that decision. What's your thoughts on that? Because I liked the idea of starting 1 week after the Super Bowl. I thought you capitalized on some momentum there. What's your take?
I agree with you. I hope we see them move it up, even if it's not the week after the Super Bowl, if it was just maybe a couple weeks afterwards, because multiple reasons. One, weather-wise, with all the southern markets that you have, you're playing outside in Texas in 2 spots, in Orlando, in Birmingham. It gets hot. So having the season up, I think, will help with fan attendance. It's huge for your players because these guys can, instead of, the UFL season right now doesn't end until mid-June. And then they can go sign with an NFL team. Like they're missing OTAs, they're missing rookie mini camps. A lot of these guys, if the season ends at the end of April, they can actually get into these things. So I think that'll be a big piece of the puzzle as well. As this year, with all the movement, it just wasn't possible. I know the league talked about it; they were thinking about doing it, but between moving markets and Rapoli coming in, which is one of those things that they can't bite off more than they can chew right now. I mean, they're already chewing a lot. So that's something that he mentioned during the press conference. They're looking at it for 2027, and we'll see what they do. But I'm with you. I think the earlier start time is better, not just for the league, but for the players and just everybody involved.
Agreed. And then the last change is going to be one format, 8 teams, top 4 teams making the playoffs. Anything else we didn't cover that you have that you can enlighten us with, James?
I think we covered just about it when it comes to the main, updates that we have. I think The interesting piece that you mentioned about the playoff format changing, I think it's huge for a 4-team league. An 8-team league where 4 teams make the playoffs now, because we saw a couple of years back when the 4-6 Arlington Renegades making the playoffs over the 7-3 Battlehawks, and it's just like that. Just like in an 8-team league, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, that's a 3-game difference in a 10-game season, and then the Renegades get hot with Luis Perez and they go and win the
And they win
championship.
it. Yeah.
So you have stuff like that. USFL, the same thing. They had 2 4-6 teams in their playoffs in 2023, 2 5-5 teams in the South that didn't make the playoffs. So I'm a big proponent of it. I think it'll really not just improve things for the league, but the playoffs means we're going to have the actual top 4 teams now.
All right. Nobody covers the United Football League as well as James Larsen. He is tapped in. He's on his way to the Columbus Aviators press conference. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at James Larsen for all that. Tell the listening audience what you got cooking over at Pro Football Newsroom and all the great content they can digest there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nonstop UFL news. I mean, if you're a spring football junkie like me, I mean, this for me, it's a passion project, 24/7 coverage. Just announced this morning, Dallas Renegades re-signed Luis Perez, so that's a big pickup for the Renegades. Plenty more signings to come, more news coming your way. So make sure you're tapped in at Pro Football Newsroom and on Twitter at James Larsen PFN or X. I still call it Twitter, but
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know
me
about you,
too.
Rick.
I'm right there with you, brother. And
Yeah.
anytime I want to get it, the latest, what's going on at the UFL, I go straight to your Twitter account to find out the latest and the greatest. And appreciate the time here, making a pit stop at the McDonald's. And I know you got a press conference to get to. Hopefully, I cross paths with you in person again somewhere down the line.
Definitely. I mean, you're out there, Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah, man. We're
I got
trying to hit.
family out there. I'm coming out soon, so
Oh, you got,
make sure we.
dude, you got to let me know.
I will let
Gotta
you
ride the
know.
waves, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Good stuff, James. Appreciate it, man. Safe travels out there.
Thank you. You too, Rick.
All right, that's James Larsen, man. And if you're familiar with the way that we cover the NFL draft here at All Access Football and the NFL Draft Bible, James is basically the equivalent over at the United Football League. Like, he is balls to the wall. It's a lifestyle for him, just like the world of football and the NFL draft is a lifestyle for us here at the All Access Football Daily Show. It's your home for real football talk, and that's what we do. Pop-up guests that bring you inside the game, and a lot of great insight there on the new changes, relocations, venue formats, divisional structure, a lot of newness for the United Football League as they enter their 3rd year, of course, from the USFL and XFL merger. I was looking forward to getting James on here, and I learned a lot because you hear so much new details and getting down to the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts and intricacies of it all. It's really going to be a fascinating thing, and I hope that the Pro Football Newsroom does a live stream draft coverage, rookie draft, because I would love to be a part of that. And I've always told these guys over there at the UFL, like, yo, I got all the scouting reports ready to go. Like, I know these players, I feel, as well as anybody out there in the universe. I'd love to just talk about it, but in years past, it's kind of been a secret society, and they just post the pics after they happen on Twitter. And it's like, dude, like James said, it's 2025. Let's get with the times. Let's get with the program. And even if it is 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, who cares? Fans crave information. They want to know about the latest new players entering the league, the background stories, the scouting reports, what to expect. And hopefully we can bring that to fruition. So we'll continue to monitor when the UFL rookie draft will be. I'm sure James will have lots of great updates from that Columbus Aviators press conference today with Mike Rapoli. You can go follow him at James Larsen. Of course, Pro Football Newsroom covers everything alternate football. They do a wonderful job. And shout out to them and kudos to everything they do, because covering the alternate football landscape is very, very difficult. And we do it every Wednesday at the world famous All Access Football Report with our power rankings. We do NFL, CFL, college football, UFL. We do the European League of Football. We do AF1, IFL, all the alternate football league power rankings each and every Wednesday over at allaccessfootball.com. This is your home for real football talk. So if you enjoy NFL coverage, college football coverage, UFL coverage like we did today, we also previewed the Thursday night football affair between the Eagles and Giants. I've got the Eagles coming out 24-13 to cover the 7.5. We're 45 and 34 and 25 against the spread this year. All right. A lot to remember here on the All Access Football Daily Show. We got through the under construction edition. They were pounding and popping and fixing above my head all show long. I did my best to stay laser focused and bring you the news that you need to know from the football universe. Of course, tomorrow will be a Football Friday affair. We'll get into some of the Friday night lights. We've got some good ones with USF at North Texas, my Rutgers at Washington making the cross-country travel there. Of course, Fresno State at Colorado State. We'll give you some NFL draft prospects for you to watch in those. And then, of course, Saturday is our college football pregame show with Russ Landy, former NFL, XFL, and CFL scout. We'll get into some CFL talk tomorrow as well, preview some of the Canadian Football League matchups. And I'll also get into some of the Saturday docket on tomorrow's show because there's so many good games. I know on Saturday with Russ, we're going to talk about Indiana at Oregon, Oklahoma at Texas, Michigan at USC, Arizona State at Utah. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a look at Alabama at Missouri, Florida at Texas A&M, Ohio State at Illinois. This is a separation Saturday. All right, we're going to start to separate the contenders from the pretenders, and we'll have more on that for tomorrow's Football Friday affair. Of course, Sunday, we go around the league with our NFL Pick'em show. Can't believe we're on NFL Week 6 already, so we'll go around the league with the latest breaking news, injury updates, insight and analysis, and, of course, our predictions against the spread. That's on Sunday. And then don't forget, Monday, we come back. I'll be flying solo to recap the college football and NFL and CFL action that was the weekend that is from the football universe. So, hey, thanks for bearing with us through our under construction edition of the All Access Football Daily Show here on Thursday, October 9th, 2025, our 39th edition. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow with our 40th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. It's getting exciting here. So buckle up, hunker down, and we'll see you on the Football Friday affair, everybody. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.